Hello, everybody. My name is Bob. Welcome to Geezerology on YouTube. And we are welcoming my daughter, Marissa. She's going to be joining us old geezers here to talk about some very old music, music from the Doors, something that's one of my great favorites. And with me is Scott from sunny Florida, but I guess it's not so sunny because the iguanas.
No, it's sunny. It's just cold, but it's sunny.
Cold,
It's
okay.
beautiful. It's beautiful. Like 55 degrees and sunny.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
But the iguanas are falling from the trees, I guess. And then Dan and I are here in deep freeze, Missouri right now. Dan's up in St. Louis and I'm in Kansas City. And my daughter Marissa is also here in Kansas City. And back in December, there was a special one night only showing across the country of a concert movie of the Doors that was recorded at the Hollywood Bowl. And it was released, like I say, one night only at cinemas across the country. And the Doors was the group that I listened to in my formative years. And now in the twilight of my existence, you know, they're still amongst my favorites. So anyway, my two millennial twin daughters, Marissa and Morgan, decided to accompany me and indulge the old man in his way back fantasy. So they went, and Marissa in particular seemed to be really enamored of the Doors and Jim Morrison himself. And I guess started doing some research and stuff into it. So to further fuel her infatuation with the Doors, I gathered up all of my original Doors studio albums and passed them on to her so that she could listen to them on the turntable at her house, and to give her the organic experience of listening to this music the way it should be enjoyed. So anyway, Marissa is joining us today to share her impressions of her deep immersion into the studio music of the Doors. So Marissa, honey, I'm going to turn it over to you, and you can dazzle us with your millennial brilliance into some old music.
Well, that was an introduction. I do appreciate that.
Oh, man can swing it when he wants to.
Yeah, really set the foundation there. Well, I mean, I really have enjoyed music growing up my whole life, and I am enamored by my dad's intellect into the way words are used. And if it's anything about an artist for my dad, it has to do with the backstory. It has to do with what's going on behind the song and why it's made and the experience of that. So my dad, like he had expressed, he had given me a bucket of a bunch of records, and I took it home. And I have a 9-year-old son, and he was really excited about what was going on when I had got these records out. And I had especially gotten the LA Woman one, I think that was, or I think that was the one that my dad had gotten first. I don't know, it was a very special album. And so I got it out, and my son immediately wanted to throw the needle down. And it took me a long time to figure out how to work a record player with finesse. So I was freaking out about that. So I realized that I needed to wait a second. And he went off to bed, and I decided to listen to the album kind of in reminiscence of my dad as a youth, listening to these albums. Not something that I would put on my, in my ears on every day, listening around the grocery store and in my car, but I definitely enjoyed listening to the same music that my dad was listening to and kind of figuring out where he was at and in life and attaching himself to these songs. And also Jim Morrison just I like to think of myself as my dad would say that I was a job hopper for many years, and I would say I'm an entrepreneur. And so Jim Morrison, when he's talking about there's this clip of him what is your occupation, he just smiles, because he wants to be more than just this musical artist. And to see that also displayed in his music, that was a real draw to me as well. You don't see that very much portrayed in modern day, that kind of intellect and inner turmoil, and listening to these records as well. So not a whole bunch to give you, but that's kind of my first impressions of listening to them in the records. And
so Marissa, just tell us specifically what you listen to. Just the 6 Jim Morrison albums, or
Yeah, so I had hopped around a few on a majority of the albums, specifically listening to LA Woman and Light My Fire. I have some notes here that I was just writing kind of and just journaling along with listening to the songs. But to be honest with you, being able to listen to a record is really confusing for me because I had to figure out like it's not, I don't
How
know.
it works.
You guys like you gentlemen like have this like almost romantic like listen like to listen to these records, and I'm just thinking about like, where do I place it to start it, and like listening, I don't know, and I want to listen to each song, and my generation is so like I hop around to different songs, you know, oh, this one looks interesting, and how do you do that on a record, you know, like, and it so I don't know if that didn't really answer
It's
your
like
question.
it's like learning to drive a stick shift in a car, right?
Oh, it needs
It's completely different. Yeah, it's tough to do a playlist when all you have is or vinyl albums.
Yeah, well, see,
Yeah.
back in my day, Marissa, you'd put the album on and usually let it play through its entirety because you were too stoned to get up and move the neat tone arm around.
Yeah, well, see, I was actually noticing just the difference of like how like my generation listens to music, you know, and even just myself is like thinking, oh, this sounds really good, I want to listen to this. And then like having music, I have always grown up majority of my life having an iPod, so having music that I can just go to an artist and pick through different songs and go to different parts of the songs and listen to them. And it was a really different experience having to sit and listen to like multiple songs and figuring out like where those songs stopped, and it was a different experience for me for sure. And because my dad enjoys the Doors so much, it took a lot for me to just like really want to sit in and try to listen to these songs.
So did you at any point actually sit down and like listen to a full album side or anything like that, or were you just hopping around for the most part?
To be completely honest, it was literally like it was hopping around, and I have my son, my kiddo here, and it's not like there isn't a lot of time to like share this space together to listen to an entire album, especially because I like normally go to bed when he does, you know. I'm just like, so listening to a few songs, and then when I wake up listening to a few songs and I'm doing things around the house, but I don't really listen to music just sitting down and listening to it. So that was a different experience for me. I didn't get to sit down there for the entire album and listen to that.
Your dad told me a story a couple of times about I mean, you might not know how to use a record player, but apparently your son does, right?
Yeah, I mean, he does. He I wouldn't trust him with any record. It scared me so much to see him. Like,
Tell the story.
Of him with my dad's record.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the record that my dad bought, first edition or whatever, back when he was a teenager, or like a 20s, and when he was 20. Anyway, very special to him, cannot be replaced. And I had gotten these records out, and I'm so excited. I got them from my dad's house, and I opened them up, and Aiden's really excited because he sees me open the record player. And I put the record on there, and I step away for a few moments, and I see him like in slow motion, like, oh, this is how you do it. And it starts to spin, and he like almost like slams the needle down, and he goes, woo, like trying to make this wiki wiki sound, you know, the records. And I knew what was coming next. And I literally was like, no, and like turned around and like pushed his arm back. And I was like, that's not how we do it. And that's another thing I was trying to figure out and show him how to like delicately put this thing. And like I knew if that record would have been like scratched or anything, and I didn't even know how to scratch a record, like I didn't even know, so I was treating that like gold.
Yeah. Bob was telling us he saw that and he decided that he wanted to be a scratch DJ. Those Doors records.
He used the wicca wicca sounds. It was so terrifying.
So can you give us any specifics as to what you particularly like what songs you particularly grabbed you about the Doors, what ones that you didn't like so much? Can you
Yeah, so to be honest with you, in the songs that I majority listen to, and I'll listen to them on my Apple Music playlist, and I write down notes here. Majority that I listen to on the records, because it was really hard for me to. But I really did enjoy LA Woman and Light My Fire. But I enjoyed listening to that. It was hard for me to, like, the first time I experienced Doors was at the movie theater with my dad, and seeing Jim Morrison really draw out these songs. And so to be the Doors are not like a band that I can just like listen to and completely enjoy. So honestly, like, none of the songs, like, really, besides those two, really stuck out to me. And it could be just because I had a experience with my dad listening to this on the big screen and seeing Jim Morrison play.
So a whole different experience and a whole different takeaway
Yes.
from it. Like you love the movie, not so much so listening to the records.
Right. It was very hard for me to do that. And it was almost just like, I'm trying to understand where my dad's coming from. And I didn't really enjoy the music for myself. And it's not that I didn't think that they were good musicians. It was just something I was not conditioned to, or like really vibe with, if you will.
Yeah,
And that sounds so terrible, but
no, that's real. That's I find that interesting because that's kind of the way that I get, like, with with a few of the albums that you've introduced us to and everything, and like when I go looking for some new music or whatever, I'm finding now that, the stuff that I don't know that I'm just being introduced to, it's a heck of a lot easier, and I can find it a hell of a lot easier to appreciate the stuff. Well, like, find them on YouTube and watching a video and like actually watching the performance at the same time as listening to it.
yeah.
If I call up on a streaming service and just try to listen to the album, without having any visual stimulation, it doesn't. I have a hard time soaking it in, because it's like I can't really focus on it. It's like, oh, okay, I'll surf the web, or just kind of play a little solitaire game on my phone or something while the album's playing. It can't do it like in the old days when we just sit around and just focus on listening to an album. I can't do that anymore, and I just thought maybe it was because is because I'm getting feeble in my old age. But you're having the same sort of experience like that, which I find kind of interesting. It has nothing to do with my old age. It's just the way that we're conditioned now, as opposed to the way that we were conditioned in the 1970s and 1980s.
But I had the same experience, Marissa, when you turned us on to the music of Dermot Kennedy, and the stuff I listened to, over the streaming service, kind of left me like, so. But when you and I went to his concert, I was just blown away. One of the best concerts I've been to in years. So yeah, I had the similar experience with with your music.
Yeah, I think like when being able to, I think we going back to being conditioned and how we are able to absorb in music and absorb and be able to help and go throughout our day. We oftentimes are not intentional with our timing, right? Like, even in 20, 30 years ago, you didn't go to a drive-through and eat on the way home, right? You were going home and you were intentionally making a meal and sitting down and enjoying that, right? So as years have progressed, I think that has a lot to do with every bit of our lives, is that we are wanting to do multiple things at the same time, not having as much patience and intention to the thing that we're doing, right?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to, but having the video there commands more of your attention, more of your focus. Yep. Where if you're just using one sense, basically your hearing, not your hearing and your vision, right. Because of the way we live in the world now, that's tough to do. Yeah.
Sure.
So Marissa, I have I guess you could say maybe a philosophical question for you that may not be the right phraseology, but anyway, I got turned on to the music of the Doors late in high school, when I was searching for my identity, my place in life, and all of those things. And the music of the Doors opened up a lot of things to me and helped me become the person I am. And that may be a little overblown, but anyway, their music had a huge impact on me as a person. So when you were at that same stage in your life, late high school, all of that, was there an artist or whatever that did the same thing to you that just really had a huge impact on your life?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's a band, the name is Paramore, and it's a girl singer and three musicians, a bass player, a guitar player, and drums. And
It's Paramore, P-A-R-A.
Paramore. The full band I don't believe is together anymore, but no, that band definitely was a band that I remember listening to on 12-hour car rides with the album on repeat, to Michigan or wherever I was going. And that definitely had an impact on the way I thought and deciphered music for sure. I mean, I did high school papers on music in that band. So
They were an American rock band from Franklin, Tennessee, formed in 2004. Is that the one?
that would be correct. Yep.
Haley Williams, the lead vocalist,
Mhm.
guitarist Taylor York, and drummer Zach Farrow. They're a trio. Interesting. Wow.
Marissa, I did the same thing with the Doors. I wrote, I remember in my contemporary issues class in high school, I wrote term papers about the Doors, in politics and their music of the time. And yeah, I did the exact same thing. So the way you feel about Paramore is, the way I feel about the Doors.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, it's a love affair that I still have, almost 50 decades later with their music. So interesting. So you mentioned you like the song "Light My Fire." What about that song captured you?
So I think that really I was kind of in awe and kind of like smitten by Jim Morrison singing that, and just in the picture on in the movie theater. And I just really enjoyed it. There was nothing really like specifically special about that song other than I just really enjoyed it. It was so, and also I think that like that just that lyric, I've heard it before, so it's almost like a melody that it's ingrained in me, so it's familiar more so than any of the other songs.
Well, what did you like about LA Woman? Why did you mention that one in particular?
Oh, and this goes to show like how not like I didn't go too much into their music, very like nothing really stuck to me other than like knowing that this was like their album that really like was well known and everyone was very excited about it. It was like their last or almost the last album or something before it was like really significant. I
thought you were specifically mentioning the song "LA Woman."
No, so the only reason I know these two songs, the only reason that I pick those two out of every Doors song is because one is that romantic version of "Light My Fire," and I was just like, okay. And then also the LA Woman was the album title, but knowing that song, I was like, okay, yeah, I really enjoy it. So there was
so here's what we're going to do. Let's go around the horn. Bob, and then Dee, then me. We're going to put together a playlist of 9 Doors songs. All right. And one at a time, we'll go around the horn. All 3 of us will give one, and then we'll go around the horn again for another one. So we'll put together a 9-song playlist for Marissa that she can put together on Apple Music. All right, Bob, start.
When the Music's Over.
And why is that? A little explanation.
Okay, that was one of my go-to songs back in the day, and every time that I would hear Jim Morrison belt out, "We want the world and we want it now," you know, I felt the power of my generation and the power of my youth.
Okay. Are you taking notes, Marissa?
I
And that's on the Strange Days, the Strange Days album, right? Yeah. Actually, let me just interject there. I love When the Music's Over too, but I like the performance that's on the Absolutely Live album much more than the studio version. But that's just me. Bob and I had a debate on that long time ago when we first started doing these.
Whichever version you want to listen to, Marissa, if you go with Absolutely Live, I have no problem with that. Just somehow listen to that song.
Okay.
D.
I would recommend the first song that I ever heard by the Doors. That was Break On Through. That was their initial release. It set the tone for the rest of that album, and they're at it. It's a timeless song. It has energy, and I think it holds up today.
That was their first single that didn't chart well. I'm going to go with the song "L.A. Woman." It's my absolute favorite Doors song. It's not really a typical Doors song, which I think is a typical Doors song, but it's just a great little blues burner, and it's of course on the last Jim Morrison album. I just love that song, and Morrison's voice is just barely in control. It's just really hoarse, and he about loses it through it, but it's just a burner, and I've always loved that song. Always will love that song. It's always been my favorite song. Bob.
Roadhouse Blues
From
Morrison Hotel. And a couple of reasons why I like this song. One, it is, pardon my language, just a kick-ass rock blues song. And it's one of those songs, when it comes on, you have got to crank the volume to 11 and just let yourself go. And so it's a great blues rocker. And I love the opening. I woke up this morning, I got myself a beer. The future's uncertain and the end is always unclear. And so, yeah, great song. Just, you know, gets you up on your feet and gets you moving.
D.
The song Moonlight Drive from their second LP, Strange Days. It's blues based, and it's about as touches of romantic as the Doors can be, but there's always a little twist to it.
Yeah, the legend has it that Moonlight Drive is the song that Morrison sang to Ray Manzarek when they met on the beach, and when Manzarek's jaw dropped and said, "Oh, okay, we got to do something with this," right? I don't know if that's absolutely true or not, but that's been the legend for decades. Also, one of my favorite Doors songs. My second one is going to be "The End."
Oh, you beat me to it.
Oh my God! It's just yeah. I mean, it's so iconic, and it was that now it's become one of those songs where now when I hear it, I think of a scene in a movie, because it was so well tied into into that scene in the movie Apocalypse Now. But that's the one that that's the one where Morrison first really got his reputation. What? Who? Is the dog okay? Wherever that came from?
Sorry.
I think that's the son.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
The End. That's the centerpiece of the well, it's the second centerpiece, I guess, of the first album, which is that whole Oedipal section, everything. I think you saw that in the movie, right? Okay, number 3, Bob.
Oh, you stole my thunder with The End. Where am I going next? Okay, I'm going to be a little conventional here, and I know it's overworked, but I'm going to recommend Riders on the Storm. for a couple reasons. I think it's unique. I know it's been overplayed, but it's a unique song, and it's got some sentimentality to it because the whispered spoken words at the end of that song was the last thing that Jim Morrison ever recorded in the studio before he died. So there's a little bit of spookiness to it. But like I say, it's been a song that's been overplayed, but it's got some really interesting themes to it, and kind of unique in its musicianship. So I recommend that.
Yeah, it's become really a cliche, but yeah, if you listen, when I hear the song every now and then, I hear it, it's just deceptively dark and frightening and scary, right? Indeed. Number 3 for you.
Something a little bit off what you expect the Doors to do from their third LP, Waiting for the Sun. That would be Love Street. It's got an interesting arrangement and melody, and yeah, I think it sets itself apart from some of their other trademark songs.
That's interesting. That's not one that I would think that would be on the top of my list. But okay, I'll finish up. I'm going to go to Morrison Hotel, and I'm going to go with the song "The Spy." To me, I mean, the first thing that really got me about the Doors was just Morrison's just rich, strong voice, and you know, and his crooniness, I guess, is that a word? The Spy is the one where I think it most exemplifies what Morrison was as a crooner. I just love his song, his voice in that song. I love it, love it, love it, love it. It's Morrison doing his best impression of Frank Sinatra, right? it's just fantastic song.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting, Scott, because Morrison was actually a big fan of Frank Sinatra.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, you can tell he tries to emulate. There are a lot of songs throughout their catalog where where he's emulating Sinatra, if not intentionally or consciously. It's in him, and it comes out of him sometimes. And The Spy, I think, is the best example of that. Okay, well, one more. Let's do one more thing, since we are talking about the Doors discography. Just really quick. Before we put the Morrison years to bed, I think we'll come back later and do a video on the 2 post-Morrison albums. But for right now, before we put the Doors Jim Morrison discography to bed, Bob, what's your favorite Doors album, Jim Morrison era?
Oh man, excuse me. That would have to be the debut album. It wasn't my introduction to the Doors. LA Woman was the album that introduced me to them, but the debut album was the one that had the greatest impact on me and is what turned me into a fanatic. So it's the debut album that is my number 1 and always will be.
D.
Again, like Bob, this is a tough one. It's between Morrison Hotel and the debut album. However, I think their debut album has elements of everything that they would do after that. The blues, the extended, lyrical ventures into, just some very unusual takes on that. So I'd have to say the debut album. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Great minds, man.
Yeah, I actually have 2 of them that are ahead of the debut album for me. I always go back and forth on the last 2, Morrison Hotel and LA Woman. I always go back and forth on those. One day I'll say Morrison Hotel is my favorite. Another day I'll say that LA Woman is my favorite, but I'm going to land here on Morrison Hotel. I just think it's just a perfectly executed record. From start to finish. Okay, just real quick, bang, 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 quick fire. Your least favorite Doors album, Bob?
Least favorite, Soft Parade.
D.
Soft Parade.
and The Soft Parade for me. Okay, that's unanimous on that
was
one.
an easy one.
Yeah. Okay, anything else on the Doors discography?
So, well, Marissa, I'm going to throw down a challenge to you. We gave you 9 Doors songs sometime over the, whenever you find the time, we challenge you to listen to those 9 songs, come back on, and we'll talk about your impressions of those songs. How does that sound?
That sounds like a plan.
So yeah, we'll just specifically talk about those 9 songs and whether you liked them or hated them and things like that. And also what we're going to do, since you brought it up, at some point we'll have you back and we'll do a bit on the band Paramore.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
we'll
put ourselves in your position and we'll listen to it.
Just to try to figure out where you're coming from, right? We'll do that sometime down the road.
But, when you delve into these songs, Marissa, and keep this in mind about the Doors, this was a band that literally had almost every musical genre you can think about. And they went from deep intellectualism and mysticism to just flat out rocking the house down. And you could get any and everything in between there that you wanted. And I mean, you could get Spanish flamenco music, you could get hardcore blues, you could get psychedelia, you could get hard rock. I mean, they covered it all, so there's something in there that you're going to find that you like. All right. So Marissa, we thank you very much for coming on. As always, it is a delight to have you here. You counter affect the old guys and our ugly mugs with your youth and your enthusiasm. And it's always kind of a thrill to learn what the millennials are thinking these days, because and I always want to maintain good relations with you here because, I don't want to be in the nursing home and have you pull the plug on me so you can charge your iPhone. So anyway, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. We run these panel discussions every week on YouTube. Also on Fridays, we have something that we call Freeform Friday. We may be doing a name change on that, where we do quick individual takes on books, movies, music, things like that. So we appreciate you listening in, and check us out on YouTube. Geezerology on YouTube. Thank you.
So long, everybody.